Life Audio.
Welcome to the TMUS podcast, where we share how grace, commitment, and cooperation can help couples live the everyday moments of marriage together.
Hi, everyone. We're Ted and Ashley Slater. Within the Christian community, the verse, "Do not let the sun go down on your anger," is often quoted as a hard and fast rule for married couples to follow. But sometimes we go to bed mad, and it's been good for our marriage. In today's episode, we'll tell you why. So, Ted, today we're talking about anger and why you and I sometimes go to bed mad.
Yes, go on.
But before we discuss that, I have some trivia for you.
Okay, I like trivial things.
Okay. I'm going to quote a line or two from a movie, and I want you to guess which angry character said it.
Yeah, this sounds fun. Let's do it.
So I'm going to give you a line, and if you need a second line, I do have a second line for most of these.
Okay, cool.
So the first one is
Trivia.
Rage taking over.
Oh, that's Mr. Furious from
Mystery Men?
Mystery Men.
Yes.
Oh, my lands. That is
very good.
Very hilarious. Stupid movie. I love it.
I don't think all of our girls have seen that. We might have to watch it again.
Yes, please.
All right.
Okay.
Next one. Congratulations, San Francisco. You ruined pizza. First the Hawaiians, and now you.
That's from that Disney animated movie about emotions.
Yeah. Inside Out.
Inside Out.
And the character is?
A girl.
Anger.
Oh, that's what anger says.
Yeah.
Oh, right. The red guy that blows his top.
It's exactly.
Got it.
Okay, you're doing really well on these.
I know trivia stuff.
All right. So this one you're going to get. It's easy. I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Oh, that would be Barbie?
No. Okay,
Ken?
Let me give you another one.
Wait. Sand gets everywhere.
I thought you'd get this one like the fastest.
Okay, go. Give me another hint.
You underestimate my power.
What? No. That's Darth Vader,
It's
formerly known as Anakin Skywalker.
Yes, it's Anakin Skywalker. You didn't know he hates sand?
I apparently have forgotten. I know he doesn't like volcanoes.
Well, that makes sense why he doesn't like
and I know
volcanoes.
he'd prefer to be at the high ground.
That's
He
true.
doesn't like the low ground.
Right. This is true. Well, now you also remember that he doesn't like sand.
Well, I don't know all trivial things. So let's continue with something else that's trivial.
Okay, I've got one more.
Great.
Okay. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm becoming, but I know one thing for sure. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Oh, no. That's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Is it a serious movie or a comedy? Because it sounds kind of serious and heartbreaking.
Maybe both. I can give you another clue for this one.
Is it from Guardians of the Galaxy?
You're close.
Is it from a Marvel movie?
Yes.
You wouldn't like me when I'm mad. Oh, that's sad. Oh, okay, one more hint.
Okay. Fill in the blank. Smash.
Hulk?
Yes.
She-Hulk?
No, just Hulk.
Okay.
Okay, and one of our girls said I should put this one on there.
Yes.
Which is, I hate all the orphans in the world.
Oh.
He's not really an angry character.
No. That's from, not Napoleon Dynamite, but
Nacho Libre.
Libre.
Yeah, he's not really an angry character, but in that moment,
Very
he's
nice.
angry.
So did we have only men
Apparently.
as examples? Oh, that's great.
But like the anger one
Where's
was...
the representation?
Well, the anger one is emotion of a tween girl.
Okay.
So...
It's a masculine emotion. Okay, I got it. Anger is associated with men. Go ahead.
Okay, that sounds like a
Starting
whole
to feel something here.
other podcast episode right there. Okay, so after a short break, we're going to talk about why we sometimes go to bed mad and it's been good for our marriage. So we've discussed conflict on the podcast before. We've often emphasized that how we work through conflict matters, which includes how we manage and respond to anger. But I think it's also important to talk about when we work through conflict.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, because sometimes I'm not in a mental state where I can work through anything meaningfully. I can always sweep stuff under the rug, but as far as working through something, if my emotions are intense, I just don't have the ability to do it in a way that's productive and long lasting and,
Right. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about.
Excellent. Let's do it.
I mean, and also, like, if you're in the middle of a focused project or an urgent project for work,
right,
that might not be the best when for me to try to work through conflict with you.
Yeah. Or, especially the kind of work I do, like some of the coding stuff. It's hard for me to multitask when it's running in my brain. I've got this coding problem. I'm like, I need to solve this thing. And my mind's just there until it's solved.
Yeah. Or if I'm having one of those days where I'm running tons of errands, I might not be it feels like it sometimes, right? Yeah. Well, within the Christian community, there seems to be one hard and fast rule of when couples need to work through conflict by. It's kind of a deadline of sorts.
Yes.
And that comes from Ephesians 4:26. And in that verse, Paul writes, "Do not let the sun go down on your anger." In other words, don't go to bed mad.
Right. If you close the day, put your head in your pillow, and you're still miffed, you are living in sin, sleeping in sin. How dare you? Guilt, guilt, guilt.
Well, we know some couples who do live by this rule. And I applaud people who can actually do this.
Right. Do you really know couples that do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or couples that say that's some of the best marriage advice they've gotten is don't go to bed angry.
Wow.
And so, if they're able to resolve conflict before bed, that's awesome. But that has not, for us, it's more of a guiding principle than a rule, which we'll talk a little bit more in depth about in a bit. But even when we go to bed mad, we do that knowing, our intention isn't to hold on to the anger and let it fester and grow.
Right. I think we're not stewing, but we're reflecting. Just sort of overnight, just sort of reflecting on what just happened. How did we get here? Maybe how do we get back?
Right. Well, and like you said, sometimes we just need space to step away from it and think about it because it's not going to be productive. Right.
Sometimes you need to be away from it to better understand what happened.
Yeah. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's something, but it relates.
Where's the cosine? This one's a cosine, right?
What's a cosine?
It's a mathematical term. There's tangents, cosines, and sines.
I am not a math person. I'm so
I think we're going to have to work on that issue. Anyway.
Okay. Well, this is a tangent, not a cosine.
Okay.
Did I use that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. But I think it's interesting food for thought that relates to what we're talking about when it comes to conflict, because for years I've used the word resolve when it comes to working through conflict in marriage.
Sure.
But recently I was kind of challenged to reevaluate that. I was listening to an episode of Greg and Aaron Smalley's podcast called...
Wait, there are other podcasts besides this one?
Oh, there's lots.
There's so many.
Yes, I listened to some of them. Anyway, their podcast is Crazy Little
Greg
Thing.
And
Aaron Smalley.
Okay, yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, focus on the family.
Good people.
And the podcast is Crazy Little Thing Called Love. And Aaron shared that healthy couples don't resolve conflict, but instead repair conflict.
Repair. Like literally dictionary, or are they being clever? Like, we're a pair, so we're going to repair ourselves.
Okay, so Greg explains what that means.
Okay.
Is we take a moment to revisit how that argument or whatever was going on, whatever wounded us, hurt us, how that made us both feel, and we care about the emotions. And then if we need to come up with some sort of solution, we can do that in a way that feels good to both of us.
All right.
So I thought that was interesting.
Repair.
To think of it not as resolving, like we fixed the problem, but instead repairing maybe the hurt and the wounds or the misunderstandings, the things that have happened in the conflict.
It's probably helpful to think both. Like repair is like you broke something, so you just get it back to where it was prior to the breakage.
Interesting.
But at the same time, it is a helpful term just because it's different from resolve or reconcile, something you always hear.
Right. And repair kind of gives this idea of caring about the other person's emotions in the situation. So I thought that was really interesting.
Right. Okay. Okay. Now I'm getting it. Because repair is like you've got two individuals who've been injured because of the conflict. And so let's repair that injury to both parties. Not just get back together and woohoo, we're a team again, but each member of the team has had their injuries addressed.
Which I think in the long term is probably very healthy because then there's not feelings that haven't been dealt with and addressed. And
right.
Anyway, so I thought that was really interesting.
It is.
I actually heard that yesterday. But back to Ephesians 4:26.
Yes.
So I just want to clarify here, because I know it might sound like that we're disregarding Scripture by going to bed mad. But, we believe Scripture is God-inspired and it's infallible and authoritative. But when it comes to this verse, especially read in context, I think it seems more like Paul is offering us a guiding principle rather than a literal time of day that all conflict must be resolved.
Right. What about people who work overnight and they go to bed in the morning? So,
right.
So, yeah, time of day. Yeah. Anyway, let's hear the thing in context. I think if we get the full context, we'll get a better understanding of what's being said.
And I did actually look up some commentary on it too that I'm going to share that I think is helpful. Okay. So Ephesians 4:26-27 says, "Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger and give no opportunity to the devil."
Well, now.
Yeah. Some strong words there from Paul, right?
Yeah.
So I spent some time reading some different Bible commentary on these verses, and I really appreciated the way that BibleRef.com unpacked them.
I've never heard of BibleRef.com.
I hadn't either. But here's what they had to say about these verses. They said that two principles are given. First, Paul teaches that anger is not necessarily wrong. Anger itself is not a sin. There are some things Christians ought to be angry about. God expresses anger. Jesus showed controlled anger in turning over the tables of the tax collectors.
Do you want to give the reference?
Oh, yeah. For the God expresses anger, that's Exodus 4:14. And Jesus with the tax collectors is John 2:13-17. However, uncontrolled anger quickly leads to doing wrong. Being angry is not an excuse to sin. Self-control is required to channel anger in a God-honoring way.
So it's okay to get upset around tax season? And I start throwing tables over. Jesus did it.
Yeah, Jesus was perfect, though.
Yeah, I would not throw over tables perfectly.
Right. Okay, so the commentary continues.
Yes, sorry.
One way to control anger is given by Paul in his second command. Don't let anger sit unresolved. The focus is not on the literal sunset, as if there's a certain time of day when all aggravations have to be ignored. Rather, the point is not to let time go by before dealing with anger. Believers are to make dealing with anger a priority. Otherwise, bitterness or the desire for vengeance can grow, leading to more sinful thoughts and actions. Anger can be a helpful emotion, yet must be handled carefully and quickly to avoid leading to sin. It is not meant to be lived in, only dealt with. It's a lot there.
There's a lot there. I wish I understood how to interpret this in light of like Hebrew understanding of days and nights, because don't let the, what is it?
Sun go down on your anger?
Sun go down, because that's the beginning of a day. That's when the day begins. So there's so much we're not able to unpack because we
of the
don't
cultural.
know. Right.
Interesting.
So maybe don't start your day
angry.
Interesting. It is interesting. There's a whole new thing that we don't know how to unpack.
Right. That's true.
Something that
well, for us, I think, reading this commentary, it really boils down to this idea of don't let anger sit unresolved.
Mm-hmm.
Or as Greg and Aaron might say, unrepaired. So even when we go to bed mad, as we've said, we always do it knowing we're committed to working through conflict and reconciling with each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I got to add. Yep.
Okay, well, after another short break, we'll share 3 specific reasons we sometimes go to bed mad. So we've been talking about how we sometimes go to bed mad, and it turns out we're not the only ones. Did you know that?
I want to know some examples of people who go to bed mad.
Okay.
Like authors or something in the scriptures?
In Shaunti Feldhein's book, The Surprising Secrets of Highly Happy Marriages, which I have talked about on the podcast before, her research showed that yes couples, or those couples who both independently said they were happy in their marriage, go to bed mad too. She writes, highly happy couples find that when they can't resolve conflict and anger before bedtime, they choose to sleep on it. If anger remains in the morning, they don't let it go unresolved. They deal with it.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense because, the alternative would be to sweep it under the rug and it's not fully addressed.
You are getting
and the injuries are not repaired.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's actually, I'm going to switch up our points just a little bit that I've had.
Okay.
So let's start with one of the reasons that we sometimes go to bed mad is because we don't want to sweep issues under the rug.
Right.
Like trying to repair or resolve all conflict before bed sometimes doesn't give us enough time to really address what's going on.
Right. At the same time, if I recognize that something I did caused the fight or disagreement or whatever, but I still haven't fully processed it, I think I can still apologize and mean it, not sweep it under the rug, but apologize. I don't know why I did that or said that. I can't discuss it in any detail right now because I don't know what happened, but I apologize for doing it.
Yeah.
You can address it even though it's not fully understood.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sweeping under the rug is just, the rug starts piling up with bumps.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't good.
Right. Well, and it probably depends. I mean, if we get an argument in the morning, it's easier to figure it out by bedtime than if it's at like an hour before bedtime.
Right.
So, okay. Well, number two is we need to take a break. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes we aren't mentally, emotionally, or even physically able to work through conflict before the day ends. We might be burnt out mentally, feeling emotionally empty or overwhelmed, or we might be physically exhausted. And so we have to take a break and go to sleep.
Mm-hmm. Imagine if Alexander Hamilton had taken a break. That's a reference to the musical.
Right.
If you haven't seen the musical, you won't understand what I just said.
Well, and the thing is, I get it.
Of course you do.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes sleep is just the best helper, right?
Right. You wake up refreshed and you can approach it fresh, at a different time. Absolutely. And it's weird because like overnight, sometimes I solve problems. Like it might be a coding problem or anything, a marketing problem, a food problem. I fall asleep thinking about it. My mind mulls it over. And then I'm like, whoa, I got an illumination overnight. And I know what happened. I know how we can, repair.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I read an article from the National Institute of Health that says when you're tired, you can't function at your best.
That sounds very scholarly.
It's very scholarly. Well, and I'm thinking too, I mean, there's this kind of principle, when you get upset and you write an email about what you're upset about, sometimes it's really good not to send it and sleep on it. So
right.
Maybe in marriage, there's a little bit of that too. Maybe you would say things before bed when you're tired and you're upset that maybe you wouldn't say if you slept on it and worked it out as you're sleeping.
But it's so fun to press send after just laying into somebody.
But it's not fun when you wake up the next morning and
like, what did I do? Yeah, you're right.
So maybe that principle can kind of be applied to our disagreements with our spouse too.
That's good.
Okay. And number 3, we want genuine apologies and real reconciliation because sometimes one of us is not ready to apologize and we need that break.
Mm-hmm. I like genuine apologies. Some people, as we discussed within the last month or so, are okay with, hey, I'm sorry. I screwed up. I apologize. And that's sufficient to resolve the issue and, you extend forgiveness or whatever. And some people are like, you know what? I said such and such, and I knew that by bringing up such and such, it would hurt your heart. I was just in a bad mood and, being specific.
Right.
So I'm a big fan of specificity. Specificity.
Well, and
That's a 5-syllable word. That's nice. I'm a big fan of being specific with apologies.
Yeah, and I don't remember the name of the book, but it's Gary Chapman. And it was something like, it was about apologies and how he talked about in it how not every, it's kind of like we have different love languages, but we also have different apology languages. Like for some of us, one type of apology, like you were saying, I'm sorry, that's enough. Right. But for someone else, that's not enough. They need to know that the person realized what they did that hurt them and that they're specifically apologizing for it. So just because we think we might be apologizing to someone and maybe our heart is in the right place and we really mean it, doesn't mean that they're fully hearing it that way because that might not be what they consider a full apology.
Right. If you're going to err one way or the other, I would err on the side of being specific.
Yeah. And I will find that, since I can't remember the name of that book, I'll find it and put it in the show notes.
Cool.
Because I do think I didn't realize till I read it
that some people are okay just saying, I'm sorry.
That not everyone interpreted apologies the same way.
That's good.
So I thought that was really helpful. A very helpful read. Okay, so to recap, sometimes we go to bed mad and it's been good for our marriage. Why? Because 1, we don't want to sweep any issues under the rug. 2, we need a break before working through conflict sometimes. And 3, we want genuine apologies and real reconciliation. So after this last break, we'll be back with this week's Us Time Challenge. All right. So for this week's Us Time Challenge, I think it could be fun for couples to think of like another hard and fast rule that they've been told.
Oh.
And then ask themselves, do they practice it in their marriage? And if they do, how has it been helpful? If not, what do they do instead and why?
Do you have an example? I don't even know where to go with that.
Well, I mean, the whole episode's an example. This don't go to bed.
Oh, okay.
Don't let the sun go down on your anger. And I mean, some people think that's a hard and fast rule, but
hard and fast rule.
We don't practice it because we haven't found this realistic for us.
Got it.
And so instead, sometimes we say, okay, we haven't resolved or repaired this. We're going to go to sleep because we feel like we will be more productive and better able to emotionally deal with this and communicate with each other tomorrow.
Okay. That's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
So good luck, listeners. You're on your own.
So thanks for joining us on the Team Us podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcast app and leave us a review. We're looking forward to next time as we keep talking about how grace, commitment, and cooperation can help couples live the everyday moments of marriage together.
Team Us with Ted and Ashley Slater is a production of Life Audio and Salem Media. If you liked what you heard today, please take a second to rate and review the podcast in your favorite podcast app so that more listeners like you can find the show. For more faith-filled, inspirational podcasts, visit us at lifeaudio.com.